Okay, so we're just talking about how much a person could earn on regular pay for an entire year. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start talking about overtime pay, but we're going to focus just on 1 week first, and then we'll extend it out beyond that. Now, there are two terms that deal with workers: exempt and non-exempt. And what we're going to be dealing with here are the non-exempt. It says these people are legally entitled to 1.5 times their regular rate. At least the overtime pay has to be at least 1.5 whatever the regular hourly rate is. Okay, so we're going to focus just on that right at the moment. Exempt are going to be people who are normally on a salary, and so overtime hours don't count for these people. Alright, so now we're going to look at what are the things that we need to know to determine overtime pay. Well, first thing we need to do is figure out what's that hourly rate, hourly wage that you're getting paid for overtime. And so it's going to be whatever your regular wage was times 1.5. Next thing we need to know is how many hours of overtime are you working. So that's going to be determined by how many hours did you work in a week minus 40, because that gives us how many hours over 40 you worked for that week. And so then our overtime pay is whatever that overtime wage is that you determined up here times whatever your number of overtime hours is, which you determined right here. Okay? So now let's look at an example. We're going to get ourselves started. So let's do the hourly wage first. So it's going to be regular wage times 1.5. So I know my regular wage is $15.50 per hour. So my overtime wage is going to be that $15.50 times the 1.5. So how much do I earn per hour for my overtime wage? Excellent, $23.25. Beautiful. So we have the hourly wage for overtime. Now we need to continue going, because now what we need to do is figure out how many hours of overtime am I working, and it's going to be how many hours worked in the week minus 40. So if I know that I'm working 46.5 hours for that week, to determine how many hours of overtime, it's 46.5 minus 40. So how many hours of overtime did I work this week? Excellent, 6.5. Perfect, we are getting there. So now we have the information that we need to determine our overtime pay, because that's going to be overtime pay is overtime wage times number of overtime hours. We figured out the overtime wage, $23.25. We figured out the number of overtime hours, 6.5. And so now all we're going to do is take these two numbers and multiply them together to determine how much we get paid for overtime that week. So what is our overtime pay for this week? Excellent, $151.13. Perfect job. And so again, all that we did were these steps. We determined the hourly wage for overtime, regular, times 1.5. We then determined the number of overtime hours. So how many hours worked in the week? Minus 40. And then we took those two answers that we just got and multiplied them together to determine overtime pay. So let's do this one more example, shall we? Regular wage is $18.75. You worked 57.25 hours last week. How much overtime pay did you earn last week? Well, here we go. What's the first thing we need to determine? Overtime hourly wage. Okay, so what is that value that we're getting paid per hour for overtime? Excellent, $28.13. So we've got that. Next thing we need to know, how many hours of overtime am I getting in? So how many hours of overtime did I work last week? Excellent, 17.25. And now we have the information that we need to determine overtime pay. And so let's do that. How much was that overtime pay for last week? Awesome job, $485.24. That's a good week. Okay? Excellent job by you. Nicely done. Alright, you got this. Do a great job. We're going to work on that overtime payout assignment.